In a previous video, I discussed asymmetrical game balance. While it wasn't a particularly deep dive into the genre as a whole, being more of a wide scope of the do's and don'ts and many mistakes an asym game might end up making, I do believe everything I said in that video and probably will stand by it forever. The reason I bring up this video though is because there was a section in there where I talked about killer balance. I'm not going to go too in depth here. If you want, go watch the other video, but essentially I give a breakdown on what makes a killer strong. Good map pressure and good chase potential, and how you could generally balance the two out to stop your killer from being too oppressive. That said, outcome memories has never been the gold standard when it comes to killer design. It's always been fairly hit or miss, though usually hits a miss. Just take a look at 0.1 John Rage mode. I don't think this applies to anyone more in the outcome memories cast than Fleetway Super Sonic. A killer so oppressive that he can easily wipe most teams. And EXE is so frustrating to go against because of the amount of invincibility frames and lack of end lag. And yet he's been paraded as a perfectly balanced killer, all because he theoretically can be killed as a band-aid fix to adjust his frustrating and flawed moveset. And this isn't just my sentiment either. Today, I want to show why Fleetway Supersonic, while being a cool concept, isn't really fit for a game like Outcome Memories. If you liked the video, like it. If you disliked it, dislike it. Subscribe and join my community Discord, and let's not waste any more time and hop into the video. Now, I know these are some fighting words that I'm using right out of the gate. Saying Fleetway isn't good for Outcome Memories? I must have lost my tails-brained mind 7 years ago. But before you get to the torches and riot in the streets and grab my IP address, let me make my case. Fleetway is fun, absolutely, no question about it. He has so much movement, so much freedom, and can blast through a team in seconds. He's what I'm going to classify as a power trip character, because solo, you're not surviving against a halfway decent Fleetway for more than 20 seconds. Hell, you could barely survive that against him when you're with your team. But why? I know I've been saying that for the past minute and a half, but I never really said why. Well, for that, we need to talk about his moveset. Fleetway's moveset is considered a rushdown, essentially a character that can, well, rush you down, relying on speed to suffocate your options. Other killers in Outcome Memories fit a certain niche, more or less. Colossus is your token brute. He forces his way through teams with piercing moves and heavy damage, while 2011X is more so of a hit-and-run kind of stealth killer that is really good at tunneling one person at a time. And Tripwire fills a weird dual niche of both Trapper and Rushdown, needing you both to do well. They all have their own purpose for being in the game. Fleetway kind of has elements from every niche, aside from maybe Trapper. He has brute moves that would make Colossus blush. He has rushdown moves that put Tomorrow, what the fuck? He has rushdown moves that put Tripwire to shame. Let's talk about them, shall we? Before we get into the active moves, let's talk passives. He can fly very fast and for quite a long time. He has a random critical hit chance to, well, do a hit that does significantly more damage, and a second phase which increases his chances of landing said critical hit. All of that, and Colossus couldn't even keep his speed passive after he was stunned. This is balanced out by his inability to tank hits. Stun him enough to deplete his 355 HP, and you win. That sounds balanced enough, right? Make a rushdown that gets punished for being too careless. That sounds like a good idea. Actually, it makes the killer think about his options. Well, hold on now. Let's not be so hasty. I haven't even talked about his active abilities yet. Laser is kind of nigh on useless 9 times out of 10. It can be used to maybe damage someone for like 10 HP, but most just use it to escape a quick stun because the windup has iframes. Fateful Drain is a move that propels you forward, grabbing anyone in your path to steal HP from the survivor you grabbed and give it to yourself. You have 3 charges of this move before it goes on cooldown. Fateful Drain gives you iframes for the entire duration of the move. Chaos Dash is essentially a spin dash. Upon activating, it gives you every survivor position, along with dealing about 12 damage every time you hit someone, making it a good kill confirm. This has iframes for the whole duration, though it can be stunned out of with a counter. Burst is interesting, because it behaves differently depending on when you use it. It has a long wind-up move with a big AoE effect that deals like 25 damage, ragdolls and sets you on fire. It also gives iframes if used out of stun. But you can also use this move to get out of a stun combo. See, if you use it while you're stunned, it gets you back out of it immediately, but the downside is the next time you're stunned, it'll add that time back onto it. So if you get out of a metal stun with 5 seconds left, and the next time you're stunned, it should add that 5 seconds onto your current one. I say should, because half the time that doesn't work, and other times it's weird. In a vacuum, these might sound semi-balanced. Sadly, nothing is ever as simple as being a vacuum, especially when you take into account how people will abuse these tools given to them to win. And, I can't even be mad at people who abuse them to win because, they were given the tools. So, it's not on the people. Iframes are generally given sparingly to a character to stop them from taking damage when it was unavoidable. For example, Blaze's round kick gives her iframes on activation to stop her from getting unfairly hit mid-move. This makes sense. This applies to Sonic and Metal too, where they get iframes during their stun, be it drop dash or destructive charge, such as with Colossus's grab to avoid getting hit out of it by an Amy when she clearly should have been grabbed. These are what I'm going to call healthy iframes, where it helps the character be less frustrating to play, which is good for the game's overall health. Fleetway, however, has no such sparse usage of iframes. Every move gives them in some form. In fact, it's to the point that most people don't even use their moves as their intended function. Fateful Drain is never used to get HP back, and if you say it is, then you're lying to my face, potato chip. Against a Fleetway who has more than 30 minutes on the character, it becomes really frustrating really fast. He has so many moves at his disposal as a get-out-of-jail-free card, even if he was massively outplayed. Not to mention the mobility he has, there really is no way to ever lose chase, even if you are Sonic, Metal, or Eggman, who all have a really good moves at buying distance. Other characters and killers have good mobility options, sure, but they all have drawbacks in some way. Colossus is extremely slow without charge and can be bumped into a wall to make him even slower for a time. Tripwire is bad at tracking, and 2011X is a stun magnet, plus has end lag a lot of the time. Someone might try to counter this by saying, oh yeah, 2011X has moves that stops him from getting stunned. Does that mean he's OP? No. And the difference between these moves and Fleetways is that John Rage modes aren't counters. They're defensive. You can't immediately counterattack like you can, say, Fateful Drain. For example, if a Knuckles is going to charge a punch, or you hear a metal charge, you have 4 different ways to defend against it. You can fly up, burst, chaos dash, Fateful Drain, and 3 of those are damaging moves. And since the cooldowns on all of these moves are relatively small, you don't really have to conserve them either. Other characters have counterplay. Against a good Fleetway though, there is no such thing. What little counterplay he does have would be drowned out by the skill of the character, because you're using the tools to overshadow any counterplay he has. You just can't outplay a Fleetway who knows what they're doing. He not only has so many tools at his disposal as get-out-of-jail-free cards, but also requires a really specific team to beat. Ideally, Knuckles, Blaze, Metal, Sonic, Eggman, and Cream, maybe with an Amy thrown in if there's enough people. I said in my previous video that having a character that deals with a hyper-specific team to beat is a bad game design, especially when the killer player can see what the team is going to be before choosing. He simply has too much information, is too fast, and has too many iframes. He's much like the nurse in Dead by Daylight. He doesn't really have to play by any conventional rules that the other killers do, which isn't inherently a bad thing, but it would have to be done properly, and in this case, I don't think it was. So there are some potential changes to make him healthier and less brain dead, and give him some much needed skill expression that he honestly lacks right now. For example, move the laser iframes from before the move and during the windup to the actual laser move. This is much like a tailed laser where it would be more risky, but you also get more iframes and you're rewarded for making a risky play. In return, he'll probably also have to do more damage with the laser as well to make it a worthwhile risk. Chaos Dash is mostly fine, but I feel like it shouldn't give you indicators unless you hit someone with it. In exchange, make them last longer than the move, so that he's rewarded with hitting someone with Chaos Dash with information and a lot more of it that he can act on, especially since a lot of people use it as a kill confirm. That gives you a lot more information that you can use your other abilities to act on. Fateful Drain is a weird move to balance. It gives iframes for like the whole duration, which makes it incredibly good at dodging otherwise successful hits. It's really cheesy. So instead, what if the windup of the move has no iframes while the lunge part does? To compensate, if he lands it successfully, he should be given stun immunity for 5 seconds or so. Given information with little radar pings, that would be really cool. Also, more health for landing it. Instead of like 35, give him like 50. I think that would be a fair trade. And finally, Burst. Honestly, I think Burst is pretty much fine. Like, I honestly mess with Burst as a move a lot. I think the cooldown should be higher if you do use it to avoid a stun. But otherwise, I like Burst a lot as a move. And especially because it does have that little risk factor where if you do miss, you are lit on fire. While that fire only takes away like 5 HP, it doesn't do much. You do still have to like sometimes be cautious of that. Plus, if you get stunned right after burst, you're stunned for longer, so. To balance Fleetway and LMS, I feel like he should have his HP maneuvered to a case-by-case basis, at least for the stunners. For Metal, it would probably have to be around 150, same with Knuckles and Blaze, because they do a lot of damage very fast. For Amy, it would probably be 75. Eggman should have his HP dealt with by a shield, maybe 50 HP for him, make every shield hit do about 20. Against Tails, he would probably have 65 or so. I would say that's fair, because Tails' cannon only does 15 to 20 for a full hit, and Fleetway has so many iframes. I think it would be fine. Silver and Cream are kind of screwed, but that's kind of okay. Every character has a bad EXE to go against, and iframes toned down for LMS as well. Of course, to compensate for this somewhat decently sized overhaul, his HP and flight stamina would have to be increased accordingly. I think changes that increase his risk-reward is much healthier for the game as a whole. It doesn't stop Fleetway from being a menace in the right hands, but it also makes it possible for survivors to fight back without having to deal with the iframe merchant Fleetway, and all the bullshit cheese that he has. And I'm saying this as a avid enjoyer of Fleetway. None of this is hating on Fleetway as a killer. I'm a Colossus main, sure, but I think he's really fun to play. But just because something is fun to play doesn't mean it's fair or well balanced. Especially as it stands right now, he's frustrating to fight and near impossible to beat, unless the Fleetway doesn't know what they're doing. I know this video is kind of redundant, because outcome memory has been shelved, but, you know, I feel like this is more of a thought experiment, a what could have been moment. Plus, it's to help plus it's just to say that Fleetway is garbage to fight. Anyway, if you liked the video, like it. If you disliked it, dislike it. Subscribe and join my community Discord. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye, guys.